Hello.
And the community transition center students have started the turkey drive as a huge opportunity. And part of what we do is start secondary school, and perishable or non-perishable food. And then we were lucky enough to partner with a variety of community members that donated resources, financial resources. And then also we have my kidney stamps from Grocery Outlet. You guys come on up too. They have been an amazing support to our program. Overall, they've employed a variety of students through the program. They have donated money to help turkeys buy Big Friday help buy. And okay, a big family. It's a family 12 and 12 people. Yeah, so and students stored it all. Boxes. It's quite a project. But my community has been an amazing support. Grocery Outlet has been a great partner. In addition to the turkey drive, they've worked with us on our Feed for Thought initiative. We've been preparing meals for
Got to turn on. Yeah. How's that? Maybe that's why we had this. Phil,
Yeah.
can you hear over the Zoom now?
Nope.
Jeez.
Yeah, it's not muted now. I don't know. I can't hear anything. Can people
Your computer.
mute it? Oh,
comprehensive program review of like the Quest programs and high cap programs at schools, where they're gonna like get a bunch of input from staff in the community and do classroom visits. And that's going to be used to redesign the high cap program. And some notes about that were how their extra support is needed at the middle school level, and some questions about the AP classes offered at high schools, and identifying students for the Quest program in K to 12.
And then we finished off by talking about how some new ideas that we had from the WASDA meeting for the council. And we basically ended the discussion by saying that we still prefer TLAC as our main building. And then we also wanted to continue meetings at lunchtime since students have jobs and other activities. And then policies the board is reviewing will be included on the agenda for next meeting, so then we can put more input from the student perspective. And we also wanted to discuss discipline/discrimination policy at the next meeting.
Great. Thank you. Any questions for the students? No? Okay. Great. Thanks, you guys. And we'll move on to our parent guardian advisory report.
All right, we met on November 17th and we had a turnout of 18 parents to discuss the topic of discipline. One of the repeated concerns was the inconsistency in discipline when working with different teachers, paras, or administrators. Some of these examples include some teachers explaining the why while others simply enforce. A parent shared how their son was sent to the Success Center at Chief Joe and was then not allowed to play his basketball game, while other students who were repeatedly sent to the Success Center were still allowed to play in the games, even though they got to go to the Success Center more frequently. Students who act out regularly seem to get more lenient discipline, while other students who act out only occasionally seem to get harsher or stricter treatment. At Richland High School, the no cell phone rule is inconsistent depending on the teacher, with some teachers still allowing phones. It appears this may also be happening at Hanford. There were also reports of teachers yanking phones out of students' hands in the hall. There were also complaints of teachers covering clocks in their classrooms and students getting in trouble for pulling out their phones to check on the time. So those are some of the examples of the inconsistencies. Okay, some teachers jumped straight to tier 2 without following steps in tier 1. Concerns were raised regarding re-entry plans for students who had been suspended, with the parents not receiving the support and helping their students keep up with the work. So that was kind of the gist of our the concerns of the parents. And after discussion, we have 5 recommendations to present to you. So the first is to take steps to ensure equitable enforcement of policies across the buildings and the activities. The second is at the beginning of the school year, provide parents and guardians with an infographic, flowchart, or other document outlining the discipline process at their children's school. For example, what the buses did with the school bus discipline information that was sent out to all the parents at the beginning of the school year. So this would include information on room clears, refocuses, success centers, suspensions, etc., so that the parents are more informed about what their school does for discipline. Oh, I have 6. Sorry, I read that wrong. This is the third one. Standardized documentation and communication for incidents, consequences, and reentry plans. So, and to set requirements on parent notification with a quick turnaround, because that was another thing that people had brought up, was they were having inconsistent notifications from schools about what their kids have been doing. Okay, number 4, include families in reentry plan. Oh, no, that's why. I'm so sorry. I should have proofread this. It's twice. That's why. Okay. Number 4, ensure bus drivers are trained and informed on which students have IEPs or 504s and provide proper support for these students. And the last one is number 5, provide district-wide staff training on cultural and racial responsiveness, communication expectations, and consistent discipline practice. And then we had just a couple questions that we wanted to submit to you for a response prior to the next meeting, which will be January 26th. There's no meeting this month. And these are the questions. What is MTSS, and what steps define tier 1 and tier 2 intervention, and how are they enforced consistently? What is the policy for success center referrals and exclusion from activities? What guidelines determine when a room clear should occur? What written documentation should parents expect after an incident? What is the process for re-entry planning following suspensions? How are staff trained in culturally responsive and equitable practices? And lastly, how does the district look at disproportionate numbers of racial categories that are disciplined? And how is it used to address equity in discipline? We also talked about topics for next school year, and I won't go over all of them, but our next one in January 26th will be multilingual learners. And it was recommended that parents form another committee for inclusion. And lastly, we had board reports from that just talked about the town hall that was last week for the levy. And we also requested switching from Zoom to Microsoft Teams for similar reasons of tonight. And we also talked about the OSPI grant awarded to support inclusionary practices at 2 pilot schools. So thank you for your time.
Thank you. Yeah, can you submit that report to Nancy so that we can get
Yes,
that to the board too? Yeah,
I'm sorry, I emailed you, but it was
Okay.
probably way too late.
okay. Thanks. Appreciate it.
Cameron, your phone is on the screen.
The chat's on the screen.
Yep.
I think you can just pin the big video and it should hide her.
We can see you now, Jill. Can you hear us? Can you speak?
Yes. You need to mute your video. How do you mute your video? I'm either on or I'm off.
Ah, there you go. Now we don't see your video.
Well, because I turned my camera off, but
Oh, well, we can hear you now. That's success.
okay, I'm gonna just, you know I'm here. I'm gonna just turn my video off so you guys don't have to have my big eyes glaring at you.
Thanks, Jill. All right, we will move into our public comment period. We're opening the meeting for public comment. This portion of the meeting is an opportunity for members of the public to address the board on matters within our jurisdiction. The board is also encourages speakers to present written statements to the board secretary, who can distribute copies to all of the board members. Please keep your comments brief and focused on the issues before the board. We ask that all comments be respectful and constructive, and that the audience remain quiet and respectful regardless of your agreement with the viewpoints that are shared. The board will listen to your comments, but will not engage in a back and forth discussion except to ask clarifying questions. Please be aware that comments regarding individual staff or students are not appropriate during this time. If you have a concern about a specific staff member, please direct it to the superintendent or discuss it with a board member privately. We have 30 minutes total set aside for public comment, and we'll allow 2 minutes per speaker. We'll do our best to accommodate everyone who wishes to speak, but if we run out of time, you're welcome to send additional comments to boardfeedback@rsd.edu. We have 2 people signed up. Do we have any more from the back?
There is one additional person.
Okay. So we have 3. All right. Do you want to call them out in the order that you have?
Yes, please. Our first speaker is Brian Palmer.
My name is Brian Palmer. I've been a science teacher at Hanford High School for almost 30 years now. Today, I want to address the academic goals update that will be presented later in this meeting, specifically the asynchronous learning pilot. Richland has an asynchronous program at Pacific Crest Online Academy. We have alternative programs at River's Edge and Home Link that do great work with their students. The idea of adding asynchronous classes at Hanford and Richland high schools will water down those programs and adversely impact the 2 high schools. Forcing teachers, especially PE and health, which is what the proposal outlines, to create brand new fully online programs to pilot in January is unreasonable. PE has already been watered down to the point where there are so many alternative pathways that to meet that graduation requirement that a school of 2,000 students can operate with just 2 PE teachers. This sends the wrong message. If we want students to be physically, socially, and emotionally healthy, they need to be engaged in classes like PE that teach them to interact as a team and to compete with each other in a positive way. This plan will ruin that. We saw how pushing everyone online during COVID turned out. The classes that I taught were poorly attended, and most students were not successful because they were not motivated. Students who want or need the flexibility of asynchronous learning have that option already. We should be keeping our standards high and helping students achieve those standards, not watering things down so that we have a high graduation rate and we're feeding collegiate remedial programs. When I started here in 1998, there was a little extra swagger because we were Richland School District, and especially the academic reputation of Hanford High. That swagger has faded, especially in recent years. My colleagues and I will continue to maintain high standards and help our students achieve them. But if you give them an asynchronous escape hatch so they can AI their way through their education, that reputation will truly be dead before many more years go by.
Thank you.
The next speaker is Janet Schuster.
My name's Janet Schuster. I'm the department head for the physical education department at Richland High School. And I'm representing several teachers that are here too that are not signed up to speak, but we mostly have questions also regarding the topic that is being brought today for asynchronous learning. We have several questions. Hopefully, we know this isn't a back and forth thing, but these are the questions and concerns that we have, also supporting what was just said. We believe we're a comprehensive high school and high schools at Richland High School and Hanford High School, and those options are already out there. So an asynchronous learning environment for especially physical education and health is putting our department and the integrity of our department, we feel like, in jeopardy. So we believe strongly in what we teach, and we believe that giving kids an option, because that's not something that they choose to do, supports our program. So these are some of the questions and concerns that we have. Hopefully they'll be addressed at some point. Can anyone do this? In the packet that was online that we could read about, that was being presented here today, indicates it's for seniors, especially deficient at Richland and Hanford High Schools. But then also it states for other pathways. So is that other pathway, will there be requirements? Can anyone do this? Can you do this more than once? There's one health requirement and 1.5 credits of physical education. So can they do this for all of those credits? Is it seniors only? And then there was a lot of information given in this 3-page packet that, as a teacher and a department head, I was never made aware of on any of this, that there was a task force that discussed this, who was on this task force, who was included in discussion groups.
Thank you. Your time is up.
Okay, perfect.
Thank you.
Katrina, could we get the questions and
Yeah,
okay.
please submit the questions to
Yes.
us. Thank you.
Janet.
The final speaker is Sarah Flores Anderson.
As always, I will express my extreme displeasure with the 2-minute time limit for teachers when we bring issues to the board. I'm going to just get as far as I can. The district wants teachers to build relationships with students, yet the district seems to treat teachers, librarians, nurses like we are cogs in a machine. We get moved around like we don't matter. It doesn't seem to matter the quality of our work. It seems that now we want to create, when I say you, the district, is creating classes that are asynchronous to remove the human element of the teacher and still call it an education. When I came to this district, teachers were valued. The work they did was valued. Staff cared, and staff bought in and worked their hardest for the next generation. We believe in that. The level of support and trust between staff and admin has continued to drop. Many of us are dispirited, depressed, wondering if we should even hold on to any of our standards. Why be the one teacher holding the line and expectations when you'll only be punished and pushed aside? You cannot build excellence and be asked to build excellence on a foundation of disrespect and instability. If the district truly wants what is best for students, it must begin valuing the educators who serve them. Truly, I am discouraged and exhausted from constantly fighting about what is best for students. Teachers are what students need. Yet this asynchronous plan makes it clear that you are looking to replace us as cheaply as possible, regardless of the impact on learning. We already offer online school taught by real teachers, an alternative learning environment for students who need different structures by real teachers. And we have the option for families to homeschool with curriculum that they choose, again, with real people. But now the district seems intent on removing teachers entirely and eliminating the human connection that education actually depends on. It's already damaging to health classes. In the summertime, my students tell me and talk about, they openly joke about the classes in the summer, that is just a way to get a high grade and not actually know any health.
Thank you. Your time is up.
Thank you. Feel free to submit extra comments to the secretary. Is anyone else signed up in the back?
I have no other signups.
Thank you. So we will move on to our board, student representatives, and superintendent report. And Dr. Reidinger.
Yes, I have a couple of things that I wanted to share. We've been doing our RISE Awards, and we just have, so I do want to do shout outs for our staff and how much we do value and respect them. We were at Hanford High, and Brian Seitz received our RISE Award recently. He runs the Career Center there. And just a few things that he does. He has a fun thing to engage students. He calls it Question of the Day. He also offers food or water when someone needs it. And he's a driving force behind Hanford's college and career readiness efforts. He leads large college and career events, oversees the entire CTE department, well, partnering with the teachers in CTE, and he coordinates the school-wide career day. One of the most impactful programs, and hopefully you signed up, I was able to sign up this year, the Falcon Flight Day, now in its third year. Every senior meets individually with an adult to review their post-graduation plan. So that is coming up. So if you want more information on that, I can get it to you. When a student earned a major scholarship but still couldn't afford housing, he reached out to the university directly and secured the additional funding she needed, turning it into a full ride scholarship and changing her trajectory. So that very commendable. Brian is positive, approachable, and deeply committed to his students and makes a tremendous difference at Hanford High School. So big shout out, Brian, if you're watching, hopefully. The other one that I wanted to recognize is special education teacher at Jason Lee, Emily Jaime. It was so fun when she was surprised by her team at Jason Lee, and they made the big signs of her picture, and just the love for her was just very outstanding. You could just really feel it. So since joining Jason Lee, Emily has built a warm, family-like atmosphere where paraeducators, students, and families feel supported and connected. She is a trusted mentor for special education teachers, providing guidance, encouragement, and hands-on support to new and experienced staff alike. She consistently goes over and beyond to strengthen our special education program. She steps in without hesitation, helps cover IEPs during staff absences, helping new teachers write their IEPs, and supports the creation of new programs when the need arises. Her leadership, compassion, and dedication have made a meaningful difference for students and for colleagues who rely on her expertise. So two amazing, outstanding teachers in our district. So I just wanted to do a big shout out. And we're all getting ready, as you know, for the break coming up. And so the students probably, how many days are left? I knew you guys would know. So right around the corner. I can't believe how it snuck up on us this year. And I am so excited to report that I don't think we're going to probably have a snow day. Maybe a flood day. I don't know. We've never had a flood day.
Say that too soon.
So that is all I have.
Okay, great. Thanks. Student reps?
So at Hanford, next week we have our Spirit Week, and then we have our Winter Wishes Assembly. And then this week, Winter Wishes submissions have started, and then they'll be passed out next week. which is they're like every student gets to submit a wish for what they want, and then the ASD will help support that or buy that and buy gifts for each other. And then Hanford recently banned Sharpies due to a lot of writing on bathroom stalls. And then we also have the Holiday Bazaar coming up this Saturday. And then at Delta, they have a gingerbread house competition this Friday. And then their speech and debate club did really well at Othello. And they got second in speech, first in debate, and then first overall for team. And then Homelink has a marimba and choir concert this Saturday. And then they have a lot of music stuff going on this week. And that's all for me.
And then Richland also has music stuff going on next week. They have an orchestra concert on the 16th and a choir concert on the 17th. And then Richland is also doing Winter Wishes, which is like basically the same thing that Hanford does it. And then they also had a winter semi-formal last Saturday.
Great. Thank you. Any questions for the students? Rick?
I don't have an update, but I do want to talk about the 2-minute thing, Sarah, especially during COVID. Constitution allows people to say what they want, and the attorneys said that the limits we can put on them is time, not content. And to be quite honest, I got sick of people reading the 10 Commandments to me and telling me I was going to hell. 2 minutes seemed like enough for a job that pays nothing to listen to crap like that. So, but
Yes, I remember.
yeah, I know you were here for a lot of it. But feel free to call, and I read what you send, and I'll come visit your classroom, whatever you want. Thanks for coming tonight.
Yeah,
I've got a couple of things since our last board meeting. We had, my son is in middle school, and the 4 middle schools had, they called it honor band. So it took some of the top musicians from each of the 4 middle schools, and they had a couple of days of practice together instead of just individually. And then they put on just a 4-song concert over here at Libby that was directed by the band director from Hanford High School and the band director from Richland High School. So I enjoyed listening to that. I do a lot with whatever my son's doing, so that's where you get those reports from. And then we also had our first town hall about the levy information. It wasn't really well attended, but I wanted to bring back a few of the comments from parents that we talked to after the presentation, and for staff and the board here to maybe think about most of the information we put out is about the operations levy. And I think we need, from feedback that I got, a little bit better description on what the tech levy is and what it covers. So that's one of the things that I brought back from that is a real good definition about what that is, so people can understand both of them.
Is that it? Great. Jill, do you have a report for us tonight?
No, I don't have anything to add, but I do want to thank those that came and spoke tonight too. And it is hard when we have time limits, but definitely don't let that stop you from communicating with us and telling us your thoughts.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks, Jill. Yeah, so I was also at the town hall meeting with Dan. It was a small turnout, but we had really good discussion after the presentation with individuals who had specific questions and things that they didn't understand. So I think that was super helpful for us to understand perspectives that are maybe not covered by the current communications and to help us iterate on those. So we do have 4 more planned for the January to February timeframe, and the district will be posting the dates and locations for those. I would assume very soon. Is that right, Dr. Redinger?
Yes, I think BJ, are they already out? Yeah. So we've got them
on
now.
the website.
Yeah.
And what we tried to do is to get them in different locations around kind of the district perimeter, different nights of the week, because we know certain nights are good for parents and certain ones aren't, and to really hit the span before the election in February. So just encourage everybody to attend if you have questions. That's what these are for, is for us to help answer your questions, address concerns you have, and really hear your perspectives on what is not being communicated very clearly about the levy. And with that, I will move us into the business portion of our agenda with the performance audit update.
Hey,
Dr.
Katrina.
Ranger? Oh, yeah, Joe?
Hey, can I just add one more thing on the town hall meetings?
Sure.
I did see that the schedule is out. I would like to suggest that we do a Zoom only town hall meeting. Just for people that can't attend or Teams or whatever we want to do. Either do it there in that office so we can broadcast it and people can still show up. But I think that way we have the opportunity to reach more people that maybe aren't able to get out of the house in the evening.
Okay, we can talk about that with Dr. Reininger later this week and figure out a time that we could have that.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
So so in terms of how important our CFO is, our Executive Director of Finance, trying to catch his attention. I'm talking about you. Travis Belisle, he has been a wonderful addition, helping us with operational stability. And I received a letter from WASBO, which is the Washington Association of School Business Officials, which Travis is a part of the executive board, I believe. And this was a letter they sent that on behalf of the WASBO Certification Governance Board, we're pleased to share that Travis Belisle, Executive Director of Finance for the Richland School District, has officially earned the designation of Certified School Business Official, CSBO, awarded on November 19th, 2025. This achievement reflects his commitment to professional growth. When school business professionals strengthen their skills, the entire district benefits, building more efficient systems, stronger teams, and ultimately greater support for students. So thank you, Travis, and thank you for righting the ship and getting us stable operationally. Thank you.
Congratulations.
That's all I have.
That's all you have? Okay. Then we will move to our academic goals update with Dr. Jones.
Good evening. I'd like to present the academic goals update. I've got a couple of people to assist me this evening. So they're back here, Ian Flynn and Jennifer Klaus. So if we have questions that they can help assist with, that will, when your questions come, we'll be ready to answer them. So broken up into three parts. The first section is around MTSS, our goals around that and progress and the work that we've done coming up with up to this point in this year. Really the update is spelled out in the packet for you. The second part, the progress with the highly capable program update, focusing on K-5 schools and our partnership with Whitworth University and the progress to date in that. And then this third section around asynchronous learning that has drawn a little bit of attention tonight. So I think I'd like to just start with that asynchronous learning part and just turn to the people that have come tonight to voice their concern. Appreciate you being here. Thank you. Would also like to apologize to the PE department for not including your voice in this process. So that's my fault. So I really do apologize, and that's on me. So thank you for the input, and we need to get that input moving forward for sure. We also recently, just right before this meeting, had an email from Krista Calvin, and just that spelled out some labor concerns. We are very appreciative of our partnership with our labor partners and want to work through those concerns collaboratively and collectively. So nothing that is presented here this evening is set in stone. So we need to make sure that we're continuing that great partnership and that work collaboratively together, and we'll continue to do that. So I wanted to just start off by talking a little bit about MTSS and the work that has been going on so far in our system. It has really been a focus on a lot of our tier one practices, so multi-tiered systems of supports. And that tier one is that work that happens inside the classroom that addresses student learning for all students. And the training opportunities that we've provided for staff this year
whether that be in the academic realm or the social emotional realm, have really focused on those tier one opportunities. I think the work that lies ahead of us really is operationalizing and defining some more work around tier two and tier three. So when students need additional supports or additional help, what does that look like? One of the things that was referenced in your packet was the district community leadership team that meets on a monthly basis. Their charge and their mission is really to operationalize MTSS for our system. They've been meeting for several years now, and we are getting to a point where at our most recent meeting today, we really talked about what tier two and tier three could look like for our district in the near future, and what that product would look like in June of 2026 to be a deliverable to the board and in a report that we could say that we're making significant progress towards and building some momentum towards for the following school year. So we're utilizing our building principals, our community partners, our cabinet, our student services leadership in that, and coordinators around behavioral health on that team, along with our special education department, to try and map that out. And that's really the next step of where we're going moving forward from this point on. So before we move on to kind of the highly capable and the asynchronous portions of it, just wanted to open it up for questions around that MTSS section and what I can help clarify for you today.
What is the 504? It says clarification and training. What did that look like?
Yeah, so
that's
we
been
had
something that's been ongoing that parents talk about year after year. Is the 504s aren't being implemented in classrooms or being transferred from one school to the next school as they progress through our system.
So it was really around role clarification on who's doing what at the building level. So identifying who the leader is for 504s at the building. So clarifying what the principal's role is, what the counselor's role is, and what the 504 team role is in that. We did a training before school with all of those partners involved in that training, and got some feedback from our counselors and our administrators about how to move forward in that process too. So we've had to make some clarifications and redo some training and go back and have some work with our building administrators at our monthly leads meetings with our principals and at our all admin team meetings, clarifying what their role is in that process. So making sure that everybody's really knows where the 504 is stored, who is, what the interventions are that are needed or the accommodations that are available, and how to get those out to everybody in a timely fashion.
What's the process for doing that when we have subs, para subs or teacher subs that have students with IEPs or 504s in the classroom?
Good question. I don't know the answer to that for us from a systemic standpoint. I bet it varies from building to building, but so that's a great question.
You talked about your MTTS team, that was doing. Where does that team come from? Where, I mean, the team members, I mean, which groups kind of contribute to that?
So from the central office here, so we have partners from our special education department, our behavioral health department, teaching and learning department, building principal representation from elementary, middle, and high school, parent representative, and then a community partner representative too.
Mm-hmm. And then it looks like on some of the other stuff, I mean, you have in your thing, you have the K through 12 math core content team, you got curriculum associates. I mean, it sounds like there's a bunch of different groups that participate in this. So does it kind of spread through all the
so that DCLT, that district leadership team, provides oversight for a lot of different branches that happen. So when we talk tier one instruction, there's tier one instruction in math and literacy and all the content areas, and then it branches out into social emotional learning. So there are lots of different teams that are kind of all filtering through that district, that central leadership team.
Jill, do you have questions about the MTSS?
I do, couple. On the first one, when you're talking about the ongoing training, for letters training and the CKLA, how many teachers, do we have this year doing letters?
I had that question and I answered that question, and I don't have the answer off the top of my head. I can get that to you. I give that information to Katrina, so I can certainly get you those numbers.
No worries. So you probably don't know this one off the top of your head either. The ongoing 6-part science of reading professional development for paraprofessionals. Is that offered to all paraprofessionals?
Yes, that is offered to all pairs.
Okay, and we probably have them going through on a system like, so just how many of our paraprofessionals have completed that or are in the process of completing that?
I'm gonna let Jen answer this one.
Hi, so we're halfway through that offering. Christina Tucker is leading that for us. And up to this point, we've had roughly about 15 paras access that at each time. And I can't tell you if they're the exact same ones every single time, but they should be because it is a series. But they can join one or they can join all. And it's offered for clock hours, after hours.
So that is optional.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay.
Yeah, so the numbers that Brian provided to me, they have 15 more teachers added this year for the letters training that are in year 1, and 3 others, coordinators and multilingual learning coach, for a total of 18 additional people taking letters this year.
Apologies. We also have Letters Aspire for the secondary group. And so I believe we have close to 20 total taking it this year. In addition to I think close to 30 last year.
It was about 17, I think, in this email.
Okay.
Yeah.
Does that include I think there's a couple of special education teachers?
Yep.
Yep. Perfect.
Yeah. So I guess my related question would be, what's the sort of percent participation that you're looking for with these trainings? I mean, since they're optional, you have, 15 or so with the paraprofessionals that show up each time out of 200 that we employ. What's your goal for participation?
I mean, the answer to that, I mean, ideally, we'd have everybody participate. We'd get everybody to run through that training. Now, realistically, how do we do that with the constraints that we have? That's the challenge that we're running up against. So if you have anything.
No,
to add on
I
that,
agree. And they're optional and they're for clock hours. We don't pay for after hours trainings. And so they earn a clock hour every time they come for up to 6 clock hours in that series.
Mm-hmm. Do you have other questions, Jill?
No, not on that part. Nope.
Okay, next we'll turn to the highly capable program update. I'm gonna invite Enid up here. She's got most of the information related to that. So I'll open it up for questions on the highly capable program update.
So the goal talks about pilots and things like that. What is there a written implementation plan that looks at how we develop the pilot and the different dates and things, and what maybe the groups look like that are going to have input on the program and the plan? Do we have something like that?
We don't have that yet. We're still in the data collection process with the Whitworth University team. And so from our findings over the course of this fall, they will take that data and their findings and create the report for us, which includes a recommendation for implementation. And so from that data, we'll be able to line out what that implementation plan will be.
Sure. I think I understand that part. I mean, like at a high level, Whitworth is part of this. The district made a decision to hire them to help us. Is there a timeline or a plan that says this is what they're doing, and then they're going to give it to us, or did they tell us
Oh.
how, what the process is going to look like?
So the program audit and timeline is in the upcoming on page 8. And so that's the brief overview, the plan for right now, as far as the timeline for Whitworth to provide us information, and then our part in that implementation plan moving forward. And so the details of that will be more refined as we close out with that with our implementation or with our Whitworth partners.
I'm interested in the detailed plan when it's done, because I don't know, but my assumption is that the asynchronous learning implementation plan is what is in here, and that there wasn't more, so that we shouldn't have surprised PE department heads at our high schools that this was happening. If there was an implementation plan that was thought out that involved all the stakeholders. So I'd like to see something like that for the high cap program, so we don't have similar issues.
So they're not surprised.
Sure.
Yeah.
Right. about what the services are that are offered, and parents who aren't in the Quest program don't feel like they're getting much services at the neighborhood schools. And so I think this is timely that we have an opportunity to make it better, for sure. From the staff responses, really 30 responses out of 204 teachers identified seems really, really small. So how are you going to increase your engagement of staff to get more feedback?
Sure. So in talking with the Whitworth team, we shared the focus group timeframe, timeline, and what we heard from the survey results in terms of willingness to participate in a focus group and all of that, and participate in a survey. It's challenging. And so really hearing from our staff members as we've been out working in different capacities, how can we collect this information? Well, an in-person time is really hard to commit to, particularly like this time of year. And so, which is why super grateful to Whitworth and their flexibility in allowing us to take the focus group questions. And I sent those focus group questions out to all 204 teachers that were originally sent the survey, and share that information with principals, and we'll follow up and make sure that we get some more feedback from the folks, because their voice is important. So we need to have that represented.
So you're trying to work through email to collect more feedback right now. Yeah. Okay. And I can see in the timeline that the Whitworth team and your team is going to work on synthesizing the findings into a recommendations document that's supposed to be done in February. I think it would be great for you all to come back to us and report to us on what those recommendations are. I don't know if the first meeting in March or second meeting or in February. I mean, if it's
the academic meeting in February.
The academic meeting in February, if you guys have it by then, that we can kind of walk through it. And I think it would be really important to get some feedback on those recommendations before you deliver a plan to all of us.
Sure.
Yeah. To iterate on that would be really helpful. And certainly, getting that engagement with the staff after that, with the recommendations to figure out how best to implement those changes is going to be really key.
It's a team sport.
And getting feedback from our families as well. Yeah. Jill, can you hear? Are you online?
I can hear again.
Yay, we got you. Okay.
I missed some of it, so I'm not sure what you asked and what you didn't ask, but a lot of the things that you just talked about were some of the things that I have. The number of teachers that responded, and Enid answered that great, that how you're going to do that. I would just I just want to make sure that we are having conversations with people that have their boots on the ground, and not just, I think it's fantastic that we're partnering with Whitworth, but Whitworth isn't here and Whitworth doesn't work with our teachers. And so I think those voices, we learned a pretty valuable lesson with what happened with the asynchronous stuff. Again, that we really need to make sure that we're engaging those people that are doing the work in the field when we're making these decisions from a TLAC. And Enid, I know you're like super good at communicating and talking with those people. I just wanted to make sure that anybody who knows that you are completely 100% vested in making sure that happens. And I appreciate that.
Thank you.
Any questions from the students before we move forward? Okay, anything else about HiCap? No? All right. Thanks, Enid.
All right, and then moving on to the asynchronous portion of the update. Before we open it up to questions, I think the intent was really to try something on a small scale going into second semester, and trying to identify the needs of students that had credits that were credit deficient for graduation. And if there were any opportunities that we could provide asynchronously to help those students graduate, that would be beneficial to the system and to our students. So the team that really worked together to kind of come up with these ideas and these plans were Jen, myself, Tori, the high school principals, Paul, and a teacher from PCOA as well that joined us for some of that discussion to come up with some of these draft ideas around what we could or would be able to offer a second semester if we were able to pull that off. So it's a tight timeline where we know that is that's really aggressive in trying to get that going for second semester. So there may be some logistics that may impede that from coming to fruition, and we'll have to work through those things and make sure that we're abiding by our contractual obligations and with our labor partners and doing all of those things necessary that we need to do. But with the plan that was presented now, I'll invite Jen up here and we can kind of tag team and answer any questions that you might have for us moving forward with the asynchronous pilot.
Yeah, I guess I could start. And I don't know if this is a question for you, maybe for the board and everybody else as well, but this is part of our academic goals. You know, that's where this was set up, and we were asking you to do this. When the academic goals were built, that was at one of these board meetings as well, right? Earlier in the school year or at the very beginning of the school year. So this idea was kind of published back then, I would hope, right? In the discussion of what we were trying to do.
Right.
So then my questions start with it sounds like everybody is talking about this is a program that we're trying to pilot. So again, this is kind of a smaller deal. And it sounds like it's all right now, the intention is for students who are deficient on credits, they're behind to graduate, they're not on track to graduate. What are those students doing without a program like this to try to get on track to graduate? So what are we trying to make easier for them or better? What are they doing now to try to accomplish that, catch up?
Do you want to talk
Yeah,
about
so there are a multitude of options that we have right now in place that for students that are credit deficient. Everything from APEX classes, they go into a class with a teacher, do some APEX classes one at a time to try to accrue credits as quickly as possible their senior year. There are students that are working through multiple different pathways that are available for graduation, whether it's passing like the SBA for ELA or math, because then we can award competency credits towards graduation. We do have some ALE offerings as well. So Rivers Edge has some courses. I think that when we did the board tour, we saw some of those courses that were available for students. We also have PCOA classes as well.
So they can take like the PCOA classes while they're also enrolled in a comprehensive school?
They are not doing that at this time.
Okay, so but this would be a program where they could be still enrolled in 6 periods at the comprehensive high school and take an asynchronous class to try to get caught up on credits then.
Correct. The intent behind this is that the asynchronous courses, they don't replace a current course that a student is taking. We're not pulling them out of a second semester class and placing them in an asynchronous class. It's in addition to.
In addition to. So it's kind of like, you know, kids take summer school or whatever to get something. This is kind of in addition to even doing that, because they're far enough behind that summer school is not enough. They've got to take more than 6 credits during
for those students that are credit
semester or whatever.
deficient.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
No.
Okay. Go ahead.
Sure. So I saw this as more than credit deficient students, and I talked about it as part of the goal. And the wording doesn't quite reflect what we talked about, but I also saw it for kids who are trying to take 5 AP classes, Spanish 1 through 5, or they're heavy into band like dance kids, or I I know a lot of those kids take BYU classes, or CBC classes. So I'm trying to keep these things in the district, not have them watered down. So for me, asynchronous was an option that allows students more options inside of our system rather than having them go outside the system. Because quite frankly, there's a lot more choices for kids than there were 20 years ago. You can go online and go other places. And we see that in enrollment numbers. So I don't see this as a replacement for our current programs in, our current PE programs or health programs or other, those were the two that the district talked about. And we said, that's not really what we're talking about. We're looking for ways for kids to have more options. So we keep them enrolled here and we're serving the kids that we're supposed to serve through our system because they're voting with their feet. So I am concerned that our staff has just heard about it, even though we talked about it at an open meeting, but that's not the same as going and saying, hey, we're doing a group here and we need your input because you're the ones who will be implementing this or helping us implement it to make sure it's done with integrity and is not watered down. So I don't know how the district plans to go about remedying that, but I'm interested in hearing how we're going to do that.
Yeah, Jill?
Yeah, a few questions. When we had the principals, tell me who, you mentioned who was on there. Jen, you said the high school principals, Tori, and who else did you say was on there?
Paul and one of the PCOA teachers.
So is the idea to have, so Dan kind of brought up an interesting concept. So if PCOA already does a lot of this, and we included PCOA, are the PCOA teachers going to be the ones doing the instruction on these so that we have the ability to reach more kids from that standpoint?
So I think there's a little bit of clarification around PCOA versus asynchronous. PCOA right now, they are synchronous. And so they do meet at least 2 times a week. And so that does not work in a comprehensive high school student schedule. They're already locked into their 6-period day, sometimes 7-period day if they have a 0 hour. And so they can't be released from a class to take a synchronous class at PCOA. So asynchronous is something that's completely offline and that
Well,
they would
right.
do on their
And
own
I
time.
understand that, but does PCOA not offer any asynchronous classes then?
Not at this time.
So it's all. Okay.
Homelink offers some asynchronous.
Okay. I thought they had some. So who are we looking at then developing the curriculum for the asynchronous?
So we do have some curriculum that is already developed that is being utilized kind of in that synchronous manner through PCOA. We do have some asynchronous courses through HomeLink that are being offered right now. And so we wouldn't have to start from scratch.
So are those, is that like the PE class and the health class, or which classes do we have asynchronously right now that we're utilizing?
At HomeLink.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm not sure exactly which classes, the full array of classes that we're offering asynchronously at this time at HomeLink.
And are those done by our teachers, or are those purchased asynchronous classes that they utilize through HomeLink?
So the majority of those courses, they are the purchase ones. They're through Red Comet. And I can't think of the other one. I don't know if we use Apex at HomeLink, but Apex is another asynchronous option that we can utilize.
Okay. So I guess in sort of just going through this plan and what we're doing, what's sort of the plan on teaching the teachers how to do asynchronous? Because if we're looking at doing the pilot, starting at the end of at the end of like after Christmas break, that would mean that we've got to train, establish, and do the things then for those teachers for that small pilot, right?
Yes.
And what does that look like?
As Brian mentioned, it's a tight timeline. And so these are some details that we haven't completely hammered out yet. We haven't identified the staff yet who will be teaching the APEC, or excuse me, the asynchronous classes. And this is something that, you know, I understand we need to be partnering with our the REA folks as well with that.
And truly, I just want to, like, particularly some of the health and science teachers and the PE teachers and those. I agree with all the comments that Rick and Dan have said. My goal and my philosophy in having asynchronous classes is not to remove any kids out of current traditional classes. It's to make sure that we give kids the opportunity to, who cannot for some reason or another, participate in that on campus, because we know that there's all kinds of reasons why they need to be involved in that. So I think sort of like what Rick was asking for in the high cap portion of it, sort of what is the implementation plan? We've talked a lot in the plan about what it is we're wanting to do and how we're wanting to do it, but sort of what does that look like going forward for all the stakeholders, for the kids? I had one question where there was, I think, some miscommunication on that. One of the classes was going to be dissolved at one of the high schools because it needed to be the guinea pig for whatever pilot project for the asynchronous class. So in line with making sure that we include all the stakeholders and talk to the people that are involved, I think we need to make sure that the communication is really clear and that everybody has a complete understanding of what this looks like and what it means. And maybe I'm wrong, and if other board members see things differently, but this is an enhancement for our students, not a detriment from removing kids out of classrooms, because classrooms obviously are paramount obligation in making sure that the kids do that in a comprehensive high school. So that was just some of the questions, and then, you know, who's going to teach it? How are we going to establish that? And are we really going to be ready to roll some things out by the first of that year? Because I just want to make sure that we're ready to go and that we can identify and understand what the obstacles are, so that when we go in to implement it full-fledged on those classes that we select the beginning of next year, that we've kind of covered all those things. So those were my biggest questions, like how kind of what the lay of the land looks like going forward from where we are and where we're going.
So I'm going to agree fully with Jill. And I'd like to add, I want to do this well. And just like the students are counting down the days to Christmas, and I'm married to a teacher, my guess is teachers are counting down the days to Christmas as well. And if we don't have a staff person yet, and we don't have the curriculum set, and we haven't had kids sign up who know that it's going to be an asynchronous program, this might not be the best time to be implementing this. At the board retreat, I talked about an implementation plan, a backward plan that had all the details and things like that. We might need to slow down and do that and involve all of the stakeholders before moving forward. I do want to see this done, but I want it to be done well and collaboratively. And as Jill and everyone else said, I don't see this as a replacement for the existing classes as well. That's not the intention.
It's not, I agree.
I have one other quick question, Jen, and I think you can answer this, or Brian can. So students are only required in PCOA to attend class for 2 days, but the teachers are teaching classes for all the kids because of the number of kids that are in there 4 or 5 days a week, right?
Yeah.
Did you mean River's Edge, Jill?
No, I mean PCOA.
Yeah, okay.
Yep. They just may only have classes, you know, 2 days for one class and then 2 days for a different class, but they see kids throughout the entire week.
That's what I thought. So they're all full-time. I mean, they're full-time instructors. It isn't like they have a bunch of time to go in and develop the asynchronous class loads. And that's the other part I think that I want to address is the asynchronous ability allows teachers to actually pick up more time in helping develop those if they don't have if they're not a full FTE, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Because that's one of that and then also how we're going to train them to do this are probably two of my biggest questions. And just making sure we communicate with the teachers so that they're not, it was hard to listen to the teachers who have poured their heart and soul into some of the stuff and that is never the intention. So we just need to just be super cognizant of that.
Thank you.
I think I'm a little confused. Is this not just a local version of Apex? Like, how is it different?
Yeah, it's very similar, but we use our own teachers for the instruction part of it instead of the paying for the Apex program.
Instruction and evaluation of the results like that is the intent, I believe.
So teachers are taking on an extra class?
It just depends. I mean, there's options for 6-period contracts, but then there's options if a student, as you heard Jill mention, if they don't have a full schedule, potentially picking that up to round out their schedule. There's some other options.
Yeah, I think the original intention was to replace some of these other available asynchronous options that students are already using, but have classes taught by our teachers with our curriculum so that they are not just the free easy pass class that they're getting somewhere else online.
Correct.
The focus really was supposed to be for the credit deficient and or the students who are heavily involved in AP classes, in language, in band, and doing 6 periods of other great stuff and don't have time
you bet
to do the traditional classes. Never was the intent to pull kids out of the class in the school that are doing this anyway.
Yes.
It's unfortunate that the communication has gone so sideways with that. I think, you know, you mentioned the principal group involved. Did you include Richland High School and Hanford High School principals as well, right? Because one of the things we had talked with them about is what are the classes that you commonly see that kids are deficient in and they need to graduate. So I guess I was really had a lot of questions about the pathways to graduation for ELA and pathways to graduation for math, because that sounds like a graduation plan, not a curriculum, right? It doesn't sound like a curriculum or coursework that would be developed and delivered in a class. And so what would those look like? What are the curricula that you have in mind?
Sure. And so I think really the intention was for those students that, you know, they're seniors, it's the second semester and they're really in jeopardy of not graduating. And so those students really at the site-based, the comprehensive schools, they develop a plan kind of as their last resort that performance-based pathway. And so if they haven't been successful, as I mentioned before, in all these other pathways that we have available, they would enter into a pathway, an agreement with either a counselor or a career center staff member or principal, somebody that would be kind of guiding that work for them. And so the thinking behind that with the collective group is that we would create an asynchronous opportunity so they can earn credit because they're already doing the work. And so it's competency based, the work that they're already doing. And so they would earn potentially an elective credit for attending that class asynchronously, and then up to a 1.0 in ELA or math, depending on which pathway they took for credit competency for accrual for graduation.
But how do you develop an asynchronous curriculum that is delivered to a group of kids when you've got an individualized pathway to graduation project? So if I look at the policy that was noted in the handout, you know, that policy says that these are student directed projects and activities.
Right.
So in my mind, there's a disconnect between a student-directed activity and an asynchronous curriculum being delivered by a teacher.
Sure. And so I think really it was determined that we could potentially call it like the independent study class. Those are inactive course codes that we've used in the past. And so kind of resurrecting those for this purpose for students to earn credit while concurrently working on those graduation pathways. And so it really truly is students' independent study of that with staff overseeing it, not a developed curriculum delivered by a staff member.
Okay, I think that's very different than my expectation of what this would be.
Okay.
I think if there are classes already being offered by HomeLink and other sources that we could try to leverage that could also meet those, I think we should be looking at those. Because I know when we talk to Nicole and Mike, you know, they know the classes that their kids need and can't get access to. And I think those are, again, we don't want to pull the kids out of the classroom, but we want to provide that fills that niche for them when they have no other options.
Yeah, agree.
So, I mean, I think that was really what we were kind of looking for. Anything else on asynchronous? Jill?
Nope, that was a good point, because when I read those two, I was thinking they were more the recovery math class and the recovery English class that a lot of those kids missed out on their freshman year.
Right.
But it isn't, I'm glad you asked that question, because that I had a misunderstanding of that as well.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I agree. I think it needs to be more the actual English class that they're missing out on, that they didn't pass their freshman year, or their math class, or along that lines, because otherwise I don't know how you would do that. If you guys can tell me how we can do that, then I think it's great too. We can do that too.
Yeah.
I think I have a friend who's taking an Apex class, but she's taking it during school with the teacher.
Yep. That's how they're currently delivered at the comprehensive high schools. Yeah.
But when you were explaining this, how is that different?
So Apex would still remain, and asynchronous is something that's outside of that time.
So Apex is its own curriculum. And what we're talking about is trying to develop classes with our teachers and our curriculum that meet our standard.
From my experience, I feel like some online classes, like BYU especially, is not an easy pass at all compared to in school. So I don't really understand why this is that necessary to ensure, or like how would we ensure not easy pass, or ensure they're actually gaining that experience?
Right. And so I think the intention, and that's a great question, Tiffany, the intention was to utilize these asynchronous classes to replace the need to take a BYU class.
Or an Apex class.
So utilizing our staff.
All right. Thanks.
Okay. Thank you.
Thanks, Tiffany. I think part of it is I think part of the question and where you're trying to figure out where the difference is, there really isn't any difference. But we would rather keep those funding in with our own teachers and in with our own staff than paying Apex to do the same thing. So that's why you would look at the replacement of it.
How much would developing it cost compared to paying for Apex for a few students though?
Because it's already included in what they're doing. That's like part of the job. So if they take on that assignment, that's why I'm saying that if a teacher doesn't have a full schedule, then they choose to do that, then it can give them the opportunity to have a full schedule. So basically what it's doing is just keeping the funding and the education within our district, as opposed to going to an outside vendor and having to buy that service. Does that make sense?
Or it could be a curriculum that we could use over and over again.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Let's move on to the multilingual learner supports and services.
All right, the Transitional Bilingual Instructional Program is the grant that we received from Washington State that funds our multilingual learner program. The packet in front of you that you received outlines the funding that we get and where that funding goes in relation to all of the activities that happen within our program. So I'll have Enid come back up. She's highly invested in our TBIP program, and open up to any questions you might have, and then we'll entertain a vote to approve that for the 25-26 school year.
Questions on the board? Rick or Dan? Go ahead, Dan.
I guess question first. We're voting to approve just the program in general, or what's or
The
just
plan for the year.
the plan
So
for the
there's
year?
there are certain programs within the district that the board has to approve the plan each year and
funds.
Okay.
for the use of the funds.
Okay.
So sometimes those are put in our consent agenda, but we're pulling out a lot of them now so that we can discuss them in the board meetings to vote instead of just voting through the consent
I
agenda.
gotcha. Okay. Yeah, I mean, I did have a question on the program in general, and I don't know that it's necessarily pertains too much to what we're voting on here. But if you have the ability to answer this, just because I'm new to some of this, on our multi-language learners, if we had just walk me through what does that look like? What does that support look like? If we had some fictitious, say, third grader who moves into the district, so his first year, and is a multilingual learner at one of our elementary schools. What does that support look like? For what kind of a program is it? What do we do for them?
Sure. So when students first enroll in the district and through their registration process, it is indicated that a language other than English is spoken in the home. The student then takes the WIDA screener assessment. It's the language screening assessment that determines the amount of English the student has control of, whether through listening, speaking, reading, and writing. Qualification for identification to receive TVIP services or identification as a multilingual learner is a certain threshold. So kiddo qualifies for program, they then receive English language development services through our tier 1, tier 2, tier 3 process. So how are they receiving English language development support through visual, scaffolded, social strategies in their core class, oftentimes supported by a paraeducator. Our instructional specialists at the elementary building have paras that they also utilize and design language development opportunities through tier 2 and tier 3 for students through supplemental English language development curriculum and support materials. And so we're scaffolding access to grade level core materials through like literacy, math, with the strategies, but then they're also receiving tier 2, tier 3 specific language development support, progress monitoring over the course of the year with our instructional specialists. We have an incredible, shout out to our district multilingual learner specialist, Becky Macbeth. She's amazing and works with all of our instructional specialists. Christina Tucker, our literacy coordinator, right? She works with the instructional specialists on all of the strategies, all of the supplemental supports that we have, training our instructional specialists, offering trainings to the paras, offering trainings to teachers and how to support our multilingual learners. Every year, our multilingual learners take the WIDA annual assessment. And so we're progress monitoring over the course of the year, but we're also progress monitoring year to year to year. And so ensuring that our students are making progress, exceeding growth, they're growing, in an overview of how that works.
Yeah, I appreciate it.
Yeah.
I looked at, I read through this and just the number of staff that are involved seems really small compared to the number of kids we have to serve. And so I know they're heroes out there and they're doing great work. But I just wanted to hear, what does it look like?
Yeah. And they truly are again, Becky Macbeth leading the charge with our ML specialists at the secondary and our instructional specialists at the elementary, and Christina, our support here at district office, Kendra Kootman and Tony Vonderhol, shout out to them too. It takes a village, and they just really do such incredible work. In fact, I brought this to share as a shout out also. A great example of how amazing Becky Macbeth is. Every Monday she sends out the ML Monday messages, and it is chock full. It goes to the instructional specialist, the ML specialist, all the principals, and it is full of things that they need to know, gratitude for their work, tips for teaching, reading, and content areas, opportunities to integrate and designated ELD into Tier 1, examples of how to do that. Every week she's sending out these messages and the support, instructional resources, K-5, 6-12. I mean, she really is just an incredible resource for our team. So
Thank you.
Can't
I'd like
say
to
thank you
I'd
enough
like
to
to
her.
flip through that afterwards.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Jill, do you have questions?
Yes, I do have a quick question.
I might need that.
Um,
Just kidding.
so I looked at our numbers as far as where kids are and where they're not and what that WIDA is doing. And I do agree with Dan, although, you know, staffing is always hard. There's a lot of them and we don't have a lot of staff that's doing it. My question is, with the results that we saw last year and where we're trying to go this year with this new budget, what are some of the things that we changed from how we were doing things last year and how we're going to do things this year with this plan? Just to help try and move the needle a little bit more.
Sure. I'm glad you asked. It's a really great question. So I think from last year to this year, we have another year in with Amplify CQLA curriculum at K-5. And so with that comes the language studio component. We're that much more familiar with how to integrate the language studio component within for our multilingual learners. And so continuing to work with our instructional specialists to support them in supporting our teachers through CKLA, but then also where we can integrate that language studio as well. Christina has done a lot of great work with Letters and Letters Aspire. And so those have ELD components and for multilingual learners within them. And so Letters Aspire, I mean, not only as an intervention, but also great for our multilingual learners. And so, in fact, this Friday, in our regularly scheduled monthly instructional specialists meeting, Christina and Becky are working with our instructional specialists through the professional learning modules and implementation strategies that Letters has specifically for multilingual learners. And so that is a new tool that we have capacity now to leverage because we have built some knowledge and background know-how over the last couple of years. And so Christina and Becky are really excited about that. Yes.
For secondary also, this is our first year of implementing ILET ELL for 6-12 students as well. Our former tier 2 program, tier 2 and tier 3 ELD went away. And so we are onboarding and implementing that this year. And so we've had one initial training and we will have another training that Christina is going to help facilitate on our March PD day as well.
How's that program different?
How is it different than the ELD? So the ELD companion was really tightly connected to my perspectives, which is our adopted curriculum 611 for ELA. ILET, it's not being published anymore. They quit publishing it. So ILET ELL, while it has ELL in its title, it really has strategies for all struggling learners for reading and writing. And so it's a kind of a standalone program, but Christina is working really hard to crosswalk that program with our core, because every student gets core first, and then if they need supplemental instruction, they get that through ILET ELL. And they take a screener and it places them kind of at their level.
Hey, Jen.
Yes.
And this is probably this is just a clarifying question. So they all get instruction in the core, but if
Correct.
they don't speak the language,
There we go. That's my question.
how are they acquiring any of the core unless we're helping facilitate that core in bits and pieces that they can understand.
Another way of asking that is how are we not wasting their time?
Yeah, right. Well,
Which
yeah.
a high school teacher has stopped me and told me
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
he has a classroom and
Yeah.
I remember Ukrainian,
Yeah.
3 different languages there. They didn't speak English. They were still going to their core.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and
Yeah.
with littles, they will pick up on it. You know, littles, you can, if you start in kindergarten, preschool, they'll
Yeah,
start
they
to
do.
pick up on it. But as an
for sure.
adult student, you're sitting in a classroom where they're, I mean,
Littles needed direct instruction too. So again, I
but I
saw a
mean,
second
it's,
grader in a classroom who spoke only Spanish, and she was assigned a pair, I think, half an hour a week or a day who didn't speak Spanish. I spoke better Spanish than anybody else
Yeah.
in that classroom, and talked to the counselor there, and they said, "Oh, they'll just learn it on the playground." But in the meantime, that little girl sitting there in a
Yeah,
classroom where she
sure.
didn't understand anything.
Sure.
So I'd be interested, instead of a school tour, I'd be
Mhm.
interested in a tour of different programs at different levels. What are we seeing for, how are we helping these kids?
Absolutely.
If we have 900, that's a big percentage of our kids.
I appreciate you bringing that up because we certainly, we do not want to waste students' time and certainly don't want to waste staff time for students that aren't benefiting from being in core instruction. And so if that's happening, then, we need to communicate with the buildings. We need to have better communication around that. We do have ML specialists at all secondary schools. And so we would expect that we would get communication from those ML specialists.
The other piece, since Brian
Yeah.
is new here,
Yeah.
I had a foreign exchange student at my house who was in all AP classes, who was offered English language help at Richland High School the same time that second grader wasn't getting help. And she doesn't need help. Just for information.
so one last question. That's perfect. So you get the gist of that, of how we're implementing that. One thing that I had heard in the past is that we didn't have a lot of people that had the availability to do the assessments on the multi-language learners for the kids. And so sometimes they would be in a class for, 1 month, 2 month, 3 months, 4 months before they even got the assessments on what they needed for the multi-language. Is that process happening quicker now too?
I will have to look into that a little bit more. We have a pretty strict timeline in terms of when we are required to administer the screener assessment and provide services. It's 10 days from the time that the student enrolls to the time that we assess and then subsequently provide support services. And so I will do a little bit more digging into what context that might be.
And I can share more with that just from some of the different classrooms and teachers that I've spoken with, where they had been waiting for that, and I didn't realize, and they may not have even realized, that there was a time frame that needed to be met on that. So that might be something. Sorry to open another. Open another can of worms.
No,
but I
that's
want to make sure
exactly
that
what we
we're
need to know.
that we're taking care of the kids as we take care of them. So maybe just do a little reach out to some of the random classrooms and just say, hey, what's the time frame in getting your kids tested when they come in and they're not English language speakers?
You got it.
Yeah, and Joe, we can follow up offline too and find out if there's specifics we need to follow up with. Yeah, that timeline's pretty strict, so we need to be adhering to that.
Yeah. Okay. Perfect. Thank you.
And I mean, similar to that, one of the things we heard at WASDA is that the high cap testing requirement is that it's in their native language. So I don't know that we're doing that, but that is definitely something that we would need to be considering with the high cap screening as well. I guess I have a question that maybe goes to Travis. In your budget allocation of the state provided funds, there is $177,000 of indirects. What does indirects mean in this kind of a budget? Is it the benefits for the 6 certificated staff members and the paraeducator time, or what does indirects mean?
So the idea with indirects is you have people in the background that are processing for grants, providing some additional support for grants. So you would think like payroll, right? We have employees within the grants we have payroll specialists that are paying them. We have program people that are operating the programs. And so the idea with indirects is to help cover those costs. And so there is a set percentage during the F-196 process. It looks at prior year expenditures and actually quite a few different factors into that, what calculates that indirect rate. But that's what the idea with the indirects are. So not necessarily directly to program, but to help support the mechanics of the program.
Okay, that's very similar to how we get grants. So that makes sense. Yeah. And then the associated administrative cost, what is that covering?
Kendra Koopman, our secretary who supervises the program and is a point of contact and helps with all things translation services, processing of registrations related to TVIP and Title III. That is a portion of her.
Okay. Thanks. Are there other questions about this program? Anything else, Jill?
No, I'm good. Thank you.
Okay. Can I get a motion to approve this plan for the year?
I'll move. Yeah.
I'll second.
Okay. And then any other discussion before we vote? No, then we'll vote.
Yes.
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 Jill? Thank you. All right. Thanks,
Thank you.
guys. We'll move on to our fiscal update with Travis.
Okay, so for the fiscal update this month, usually we don't do a fiscal update in this meeting. But what we've talked about is August is always kind of an interesting month with fiscal updates because the end of the year is in August. We are an accrual school district. Accrual means that any expenditures, essentially I say if we have something on a shelf or if services are rendered by August 31, we need to make sure that those expenditures are recorded in those in the August and prior fiscal year. So we might be making expenditures all the way into October to cover those. And so accrual district will record those expenditures back. Same with revenues. We process grant expenditures in September for extra time that was done in August and supplies that were purchased in August that need to be reflected back. And so we would be booking those revenues again, possibly received as late as October, sometimes even November. We book those back. And so when we present the August month end at the normal second meeting in September, those numbers aren't final. And so what I'm doing today is presenting the fiscal year end for 24-25. Essentially, it's what was our status in August. Okay, and so in the packets, I did provide essentially the same information that I have been with these fiscal updates. I provided the enrollment information. That does not change just because we're in accrual. That usually is strictly set. The end of June, our numbers are our numbers. We do have some adjustments that are made for summer school enrollment and some other things, but the enrollment figures didn't change. I did want to keep them in the year-end packet though, so that way folks, when they're looking at year-end, they have the data there. So if people are sitting there looking at the financials, you have the enrollment with it. So I'll move on. The finance, there's again the quick facts. This shows what I liked with this one is keeping in with the financial indicators. I'm going to be hitting those financial indicators a lot heavier, and especially as we talk about the my fiscal goal The financial indicators that are provided by OSPI are going to weigh heavily in on how we operate in the future and how we try and get back to an 8% fund balance and maintain stability in the future. The days cash on hand, I've been talking about that all year. That is kind of the new barometer. I think it's a little bit easier to understand than a fund balance percentage. We started the year at 2.08 days cash and ended at 4.82. That is progress. It's still not where we want to be. Healthy, I'll say a healthy minimum. It's not even quite healthy, but a healthy minimum would be 30 days. SAO standard would be 90 days. I think that might be a little too much. OSPI is looking at a good score would be right around 60 days of operation. So right now I'm targeting 30 days. What it would take for us to get to 30 days, we would need to have an ending fund balance last year of about $19.54 million. We finished the year at 3.137. So we still have some work to do to get there, and we are progressing there. We spent 99.21% of our revenue. And again, that's another indicator I think that I'm going to be looking heavily on and targeting. For right now, with where we're at financially and how we need to build back our fund balance, we're still going to need to be tight. We should be probably looking at somewhere closer to 97% is what my recommendation or me as a fiscal director would want. I know from the academic side, obviously we want to provide the best education we can. I'm willing to let it slide all the way to 98%. For right now, I think we can still make our progress on it, building our fund balance by spending a little bit more, making sure that we're teaching kids the best way we can, and can't just save money to do that. Materials and supplies. We spent 14.6% of our expenditures on materials supplies. That means that salaries and benefits as a total percent of expenditures was 85.41%. I do want to talk about the salary and benefits little pie chart on the packet. Those percentages in there are the percent. The way that Power BI looks at this filter, that percentage, when we're looking at teaching and support, teaching and teaching support, 77.79%. That is 77.79% of all salary and benefits, not of total expenditures. So I do want to make that clear if folks are looking. It's just the objects 2, 3, and 4 total expenditures. Take what teaching and teaching support salaries and benefits and divide it by that, and that's where the 77.79. Administration is at 12.44%, and then maintenance and operation at 9.7%. Moving on to slide 5, and I'm if you want to stop me for questions, you can stop me, or I'll entertain questions at the end. Moving on to slide 5, just that real nicer to read summary information. Where did we start? Our beginning fund balance at 1.27. The amount of revenue we received, the total expenditures, and the ending fund balance being at 3.1. We netted 1.86. And it does say projected on the slides, but these are no longer projections. These are year end. This is just a faux pas on my part.
Say that again. So I thought this was projection for the end of this year.
I'm sorry, those are projections for the end, or they are not projections. That is what we netted for 24-25, and that is what we ended for days of operations for 24-25.
4.82?
4.82 days of operation.
So this is the actual numbers for 24-25 fiscal year.
Nice job.
It's where we landed.
Correct. Yeah, and the quick fact sheet, I do a better job of stating that it's the start of year 2.08, ending 4.82. Those are actuals on that.
No, that's really good. Don't gloss over that. That's really good.
Thank you.
That is
the team effort. I was talking with Cynthia today. I don't know what I've done other than trying to communicate financials. I think this is completely, totally a team effort. I came in here, everybody was on board and excited about making change. We had very good conversations during the budget process, but this is 24-25. We adapted and started making progress to building back. So
It was a hard year, and I know it was a team effort, but you helped lead that. And this is a good outcome. That's a good outcome.
Thank you. So there's a slide 6. I tried to present quite a bit of information on this. So folks that have grabbed the packet and are listening to this or watching the recording, what slide 6 is trying to show is prior year information. So in 2021, the primary color being the revenue that we received, and the secondary color being the expenditures out. You don't see us doing a good job of maintaining expenditures under revenue really until 24-25. 21-22, we did have a net gain, but I'm not quite sure how much of that is some COVID recovery money that from expenditures from previous years. And so COVID really plays with how we can do our analysis. And so I am making some assumptions that with how low our net activity has been, that's probably going to be some catch-up money from COVID. But we did make the net gain this year, and trending to continue making progress this year, which I'll talk about at our next meeting. Slide 7, I figured with the year-end information, it would be good to show where we are prioritizing our money. And so slide 7 shows different activity groups and the categories within those groups. So you'd see under administration, building admin kind of held steady. Central admin has been, the amount of expenditures for central admin, district office, have been decreasing. It's the lowest that we've had in 4 years of expenditures. Facilities has gone down, food service, insurance. We've been talking about how the state isn't really helping with insurance. Those costs are going up. Other support services, basically right around where we normally are. Transportation, utilities. Utilities is up noticeably. But you can see in teaching support, that is where we are prioritizing our money. This slide 7 shows equal accesses. The next slide, I tried to zoom in a little bit more so you can see a little bit more of the depth of the changes. And so trying to illustrate how much it's increased and how much it's decreased in these categories. So, and then I provided on slide 9 an update for each of the other funds. We do operate 5 different funds for our normal activity here at Richland School District. Capital projects, debt service, transportation, we want to spend these down. These are not funds that you build a fund balance and keep healthy. Capital projects, typically these are fed by your bonds, and then you build your buildings, and then the money's gone. We have a safety and security levy. We received that money. We actually did a loan, which I'm going to talk about on the next sheet, to get that money ahead of time, put in cap projects. We spend that money. We're spending it down. And that's what we want to do with capital projects is a lot of school districts don't maintain this. They'll build their buildings and then they're done and they don't have a capital projects fund. So you want to spend that down. Debt service, that's essentially the bank maintaining your mortgage. That's what that fund is. What's unique with debt service is we really don't touch that money. That money stays at the county. We direct the county to go ahead and make our payments, but we really don't have any other influence other than making our principal payments on our loans. I'm going to skip over to transportation. Again, this one we want to spend down. The only revenue we get in there is to is depreciation money. We do get some interest, but it's depreciation, and that's what allows us to buy buses. I know Kyle will be happy to hear that I am a fervent advocate for buying our bus, maintaining our depreciation schedule. I'm not going to be one to say, hey, we have a fund balance, but we're not going to buy a bus. If we have a fund balance, we're going to buy a bus. And our transportation fund balances should be low because we are buying buses and we are helping get the best buses that we can for our students and our bus driver safety. The next fund, the ASB fund, this is primarily student driven. I don't believe we really operate ASB at the elementary level. That's where some of the admin have some say. But starting at that middle school level, students create their budgets. We have student advisors that help them with this. It helps the students learn some real organizational budgeting, and we have great teachers that help them through the process. And so middle school students are building budgets, and at the high school level, they're building their ASB budget. So this is all student money that they plan out through the year, including trying to project their own revenues with their fundraisers. And then finally, I do provide a debt schedule. I thought it'd be good to provide this with the year-end financials just to show you what we're anticipating coming up with loan payments. Again, a lot of this is in the debt service fund. We do have the safety and security levy that we are having to make payments to. That is a non-voted debt, and that we continue when we receive our levy money for the safety and security levy. That's what builds our fund balance and cap projects to be able to make the payments for that loan. Again, we took out the loan so that we could get the work done instead of waiting in the individual increments to receive the money and then make a safety and security upgrade. We intentionally went out for a loan ahead of time so we could get all the safety and security stuff done as soon as we could for our students and staff. And so, yeah, that's just showing what we've got obligated. Any questions for the fiscal year end?
I'll say great job, because I really don't have that many questions. And the presentation there, the packet is easy to understand. It to me, it really pre-answers most questions that can come up. So the one I have for you is just on the fund balance and your goal. When you say you want like 30 days, what's your goal for how many years it would take us to get to 30 days?
Sure. So before you got here, part of going into this fiscal year, we talked with the board about coming up with a fiscal framework. The way I look at it is school districts are different now. They aren't the same. We're not operating in the same environment fiscally. Obviously, academically, things are changing. And so is Richland going to be a district that just reacts to the change, or do we need to try and come up with maybe something completely different? And so that's been my academic goal, or my financial goal this year has been to build back our fund balance. Right now, the goal that we've set is to build us back to 8% by 2030. I think that's going to be doable. At the second board meeting in January, I'm going to be presenting the final copy of that financial framework. It'll be made available to the board, but also to the public, and they'll be able to see the plan to get us back to healthy fund balance and maintain stability. It's also going to talk about a lot of the challenges and a lot of the reason why not just Richland School District is in financial situation, but there are 9 school districts on binding conditions. And a lot of that, each of those districts, ourselves included, we have to take some responsibility on past decisions. We could have done some things to prevent that. My goal moving forward is to maintain the communication like you're talking about. One of the things that I kind of joke about is I don't like receiving phone calls. I will absolutely take phone calls, and I don't want people to not hear that as saying I don't want to take the phone calls. But if I can communicate the financials in a way that's easy and readable for everybody and answers those questions before they come up, then I get less phone calls. And so that's kind of how I view that goal for myself, is communicating the information clearly so that people know what's going on. And so we're going to maintain the communication. We're going to get back to financial health, and that's my goal for this year.
Yeah, I just applaud what you've done here. I mean, we hear all the time from people needing transparency, and I think this is an excellent example of transparency. And if there's not something that's answered here, I'm sure you'd come up with the answer.
I absolutely would. If I know what the questions that people are asking, I would absolutely be trying to show that every month.
Yeah, thank you.
Jill, do you have questions?
I have one. On capital projects, where it has our fund balance and then it has the net loss, what is the net loss from?
Projects that
Projects that we're completing, yes.
Okay, so that's not so much a net loss. That's just what we spent out of that this year.
Correct.
Okay.
And so, like I was saying, capital projects is one that you want to lose. So maybe I can understand the line of question. We're not really looking for net gains or net losses. It's just how much did the fund balance reduce because of the projects that we're completing?
Okay.
Maybe, right?
And so basically that means this over last year, we spent almost $7 million on projects that came out of capital projects. Is it 6.990? I just wanted to make sure I understood what that meant.
I'm going to say we spent about $7 million more than what we received. And I can get you,
Okay, so then that makes where the net loss is. Okay, that makes perfect sense. And that's why it's almost $7 million, because that's.
And I'm going to make a note next year. I'm going to make that clear. I'll show what the cap projects revenue, like all these funds, I'll show what their revenue was and their expenditures for next year. I do want to say that this information is on a large report that's readily available to anybody that has internet access on the OSPI website. If anybody has questions on accessing the F-196, they can reach out to the district and we can help them with that. But yeah, you go to OSPI and under the school apportionment page, you can find under a fiscal option, you can see school district budgets, you can see their year-end financials, you can see the levy authority. That's the official document through OSPI, and a lot of information there. So,
yeah, and this was fantastic. Great job, Travis.
Thank you.
I love the little arrow pages.
So I do have one question. What is our available balance in capital projects to spend for new projects?
Are you okay if I present that or provide that at our next?
Yes.
And it will actually fit very well with that, because what's good, again, what's going to be atypical is next month, because we don't have a meeting here in November, or we're done with November. We're done with December board meetings. Typically, that second meeting in December would show the November data. And so I'm going to provide the November information at the first meeting in December. We're going to work really hard to provide the December information. And so I will hopefully be presenting our December month end data. That's, I guess, where I would take the questions and maybe focus the energy. I'll provide all the information for November just the same, but also have it for December, because that will be where we're at. And I'll answer that question for you. What is our cap projects availability for projects?
Yeah, because I know capital projects is a little tricky because it includes the safety and security levy projects that we were wrapping up this last year. It includes the current tech levy money that comes in and that we spend. And then there's the sort of leftovers. And it's been hard for us to get kind of a real nail on what the leftover is.
Absolutely. And actually part of that too is we've been having to do a capital projects loan. And the status of that, we've already contacted the county that is no longer a thing for us. We do have a little bit of interest that we need to calculate and move from our general fund into our capital projects. But right now, I'm still very optimistic that we won't have to do anything. Right now, we have enough of a balance, and I talked with the county treasurer, Ken Spencer, about this actually today. We're going to be able to kind of hold steady through January and see about not having to do anything. We might have to do some. We'll have a conversation if we have to do something, but right now we won't have to do a loan. We won't have to do an apportionment advance, which is a good thing. Found out that there's another school district in the state, I don't know if I can name them, did apply for an apportionment advance and were denied. And so a lot of, I know one of the questions is, that is our money, why can't we get it now? But it all comes down to the revenue streams, even at the state level, and having that money available for school districts. And that's also kind of plays into how that gets distributed to us. And so OSPI is having to be a lot tighter, and especially with the revenue decreases that the state is seeing, they're being a little bit more stringent on advances. So that'll be a conversation and something that we'll want to be watching. But right now, we shouldn't have to do that. So.
Great. Thanks, Travis. Nice job. Anything else for Travis? No? Okay, great. Thank you. Let's move on to policy 6220, which is also Travis's.
Yeah, so we've presented this for first reading. We've had to make a few changes, and so we're actually presenting it as essentially a first reading again. I think it was October when this was first brought to the board. Since then, the values, some of the values have changed. And so I do want to highlight that. Some of the conversation we had, this is the WASDA policy, but we did move, there was some concern about the conflict of interest being in the non-federal funds section. So we moved, we included the conflict of interest paragraph in there. And then I do want to mention that we did cross out the values and update those values based off of the newest guidance that we received. So if you actually go out to WASDA right now, WASDA hasn't even updated their policy with the new guidance yet. And so we're kind of
the new numbers are based on new RCWs or?
Yeah, we receive bulletins from OSPI that provide us those updates as they happen. And that's what we're utilizing for the backup for updating this policy.
Okay, great. Questions about this policy? Rick?
Yeah, so the furniture, supplies and equipment number A3 has us over 75,000. We're going to follow a formal competitive bidding process. Is that a statutory number? Is that a recommendation number? It's on the first page of the main policy.
We can decrease, but the statutory is on sets the over. So we can't set it higher than 75, but we can decrease it if that's what you're asking.
Yeah, and then numbers 1 through 7 in there, is that the process? Is that a required process? Like providing notice of the call for formal bids by publication in the newspapers of general circulation.
So I'm going to answer, I don't know I don't know if that is the required process. Usually when I see the figures, they just essentially say that the formal bidding threshold is set at the 75,000, but how we do that, I have not seen formalized, and I can look that up.
Okay, because the reason I'm asking is that's a relatively low number for having to do the buying 2 weeks in the paper and opening the bid that looks like the bid process for when we open bids for schools.
Mm-hmm.
More than I'm gonna buy $100,000 worth of desks through maybe King County Cooperative or something like that. And my guess is we could use, I think it's KCDA, is that what it's called? KC.
Yes, if we use KCDA, we don't have to do anything. We can just
Okay.
buy through them because they
already
do
done the
all of
bid
this.
process.
Correct. And there are other co-ops out there other than KCDA, but that's the.
That's one that I
most well-known.
remember because they
Yep.
advertise.
Yep.
That just seemed really complicated for something that's $76,000.
Hmm.
So if that's the number that we have to do statutorily, I guess I'm okay with first reading on this, but let's see if we need to do all of that because the newspaper ads for this are really expensive as well.
Yep.
In the thousands of dollars.
So the question is the statutory requirements for the bid process and how much flexibility we have in defining that
Yes.
process. Okay.
Yeah.
Dan, did you have any questions?
I did not.
Jill?
No questions.
I think it looks great, Travis. I have kind of a philosophical question.
Okay.
There are several places in this policy where it says the board will make improvements to district property, or the board will waive bid requirements, and the board will contract with construction-related professionals. And then it'll switch and say the district will enter into cooperative purchasing agreements, and the district will ensure that it's providing opportunities. So when it switches back and forth between board and district, I know the board approves a lot of stuff on the back end, but where it says the board will include in any contract for services with an entity or individual other than employee of the district requiring contractor. I mean, the board really doesn't get involved with that level.
Sure, I think what it's trying to illustrate are the board can have say,
Mhm.
where the district is the one that actually signs and enters. And so Shelley would ultimately be the authority or her designee that would enter the agreements and that sort of thing. And I think that philosophically that's what they're trying to get at is the board absolutely has say in some of these processes. And it does that example of, and we're going to see it here today, the board may also waive bid requirements, right? So it gives the board some authority with this process, but the district is the one that actually initiates, enters into, and terminates.
Mhm. Yeah, I think that's good. I'm not sure we've always done it that way, but I think it's a little disconcerting to me how it flips back and forth, but I do get that. I think it's great. There's no other discussion on this one. Can I get a motion for first reading?
Move first reading for policy 6220.
I'll second.
Okay, any other discussion? Then we'll vote.
Yes.
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 Great, thank you. So with that waiver in mind, we will move to 3.6, the resolution or emergency resolution for the Jefferson employment or elementary repairs.
All right, thank you. So just a little background on November 27th, that evening, we had a car run into Jefferson and caused a pretty good amount of damage to a classroom. It is a life skills classroom, so it's designed for to be a life skills classroom. So we've displaced those kids into another classroom, but we need to get them back in as soon as possible. It also is a security issue, and as it has exposed some conduits and also a pretty good hole in the wall. So we would like to have a resolution. There's an RCW 28A.335.190 that allows us to declare an emergency and bypass the competitive bidding process, which adds a significant amount of time to the repair. So asking for a resolution to declare an emergency and allow us to move forward with repairs immediately.
Questions for Ken?
I'll move resolution 996.
Jill, do you have any questions on this?
No, I'll second it.
The only question I had was, how is this one different than we had a car that ran into Jason Lee earlier this year, or Lewis and Clark?
It was Lewis and Clark.
Yeah.
I was not here at that point. It was not something I dealt with, so I don't know if I can answer that question, but I would say the damage here
Is
and
more
the-
severe.
and the classroom that's impacted would be different. Because
Okay.
a life skills classroom is designed with bathrooms and equipment that is specifically for kids in that classroom.
Yeah.
And so they're not able to access that equipment now.
I'm just curious how they were able to make those repairs without something like
I
this
would
last
have to
time.
defer to Brad if he knows any as regarding Lewis and Clark.
Yeah. So last year we had a car that ran into Lewis and Clark that did some damage to the building.
Yes.
And how were we able to repair that without this kind of an emergency resolution?
That, a lot of it has to do with the classroom in
Mhm.
question and the students that were getting displaced and the availability of room and ease to move the children into a different room. There was more options for us there. And that accident was actually more extensive. The way that the car hit at Lewis and Clark opened up a bigger hole in the wall, but because it wasn't impacted at the classroom, the scope of it was going to be a little bit bigger, and we were able to keep it contained in a proper way. This one is actually, as far as good placement of the car, was a good hit, but because of the fact of the classroom that it is and the hole not being able to be as secured with electrical and the way it hit, it's having a bigger impact.
Okay.
Did we
Which is why
follow
we
the
wanted
bid
to-
process for Lewis and Clark?
What's that?
Did we follow the bid process for Lewis and Clark?
We did.
Okay.
We did. It gave, that situation was different because of the needs of the school. And what
that
we're
makes
facing
sense.
here is the impact is pretty severe to those children in that room at Jefferson.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great. Thanks. I appreciate the
You're welcome.
explanation. Yep. All right. Any other discussion? We will vote for resolution 996. Okay, and we'll vote.
Yes.
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 Great. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, Ken, go get it. Go get it fixed.
Policy 2413, equivalency credits for career and technical education, changing to equivalency credit opportunities.
Yes.
Mr. Christensen.
Yes, that is the one. So any questions? I know there were some questions. I sent out some answers earlier, so hopefully you received those. And Dan had an additional question.
Yeah, I did have a question. I'm just trying to find the actual page here.
About on page 2.
Yeah, I think that last paragraph there, where it starts to talk about the tests. And my question was basically, do we already have those tests? Do we know what those are, or is it going to be case by case? We have to come up with some sort of a test for the.
Great question. Yes, sir. Great question. The tests that we have for mastery are the state tests, the Smarter Balance test for math, the Smarter Balance test for language arts. Those classes are mastery-based tests that you can earn credit for by passing those two. And then the third one is the STAMP test, which is the bilingual class, or I'm sorry, the world language classes or test that really gives you the opportunity to earn 4 credits. There's 4 different options in that. There's 4 different categories in that, and that'll help you get the seal of biliteracy. And so those are really the only 3 classes that we have that currently that you can take to get credit.
What equivalencies are we eliminating in this new policy and procedure that we currently have available?
No, none. Good question.
On page 4, you have mastering competency and then you have mastering completion. Are those different or?
So on page 4, we have, I'm sorry, could you say that one more time?
You start out with mastery and competency, and then you say mastery completion exam for the next paragraph.
The first two paragraphs of page 4. Sorry.
What the heck?
Yeah, I don't see what you're saying either.
Oh,
What are you
this is
looking
our
at?
page 3, but page 4 on the file.
Oh, my bad. Okay.
Competency and then completion.
I think she's asking, is mastery completion and mastery competency the same thing?
Oh, yes, they are.
They're interchangeable.
Yeah, because basically they're saying there's you could be mastery of that class or complete the competency. It's the same. It's just saying it's saying the same thing. Or the examinations, you complete the mastery by having competency of that information. Sorry, that's why it's a slash.
I think that the main question I have is under part 3, where it says successful completion of the next higher level course.
Yes, ma'am.
Mastery-based credits available in different areas for a course when the student successfully completes the next higher course in a sequence. What grade do you have to get for completion to count?
A successful completion would be a D and above.
A D.
Mm-hmm.
So the WASDA model policy actually has a caveat that says completes the next higher level course with a C or higher.
It does.
So I guess, the question is whether we believe completion of a class with a D warrants equivalency credits of everything under that, or whether we would expect a C or better.
Yes, correct. I just went with the WAC 180-51-051, which says successful completion of next higher level course, and it doesn't indicate a letter grade. WASDA does, the state doesn't.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, so that's whatever you'd like us to do.
What the other board members feel about that?
I had a follow-on question, but I'll wait for this one to finish.
Jill?
I think they should at least have a C. If they're going to skip a class and not do it, that's
not what we're saying.
Oh, I see.
They've been in the class and they didn't pass it. So you take Algebra 1 first semester and you fail it, and take Algebra 1 second semester and you get a D, you would get credit for Algebra 1 first semester.
Well, but you've already
With the
taken
current
it
policy.
twice. That's all you're doing with that is repeating a class, right?
That's just a repeat. So I think what I'm thinking of is if you take Algebra 1 and you fail it,
okay,
and then you take Algebra 2
and you get a D,
do you get the credit for Algebra 1?
You do.
Right.
Yes.
So that's
what I'm not okay
problem.
with.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, you don't get to fail one class and get a D in a second one and then pass the first one.
And get 2 credits.
No.
Okay.
Right.
That's the way we've been doing it since COVID. That actually rule came out in COVID during COVID, and then they kept it. It became a Washington.
Is it just for math? Is that just for math?
No, any content that builds on itself. So it talks about we can award credit when a student successfully completes the next higher level course in a sequence that includes a natural progression of state learning standards.
It says math, science, or language arts.
Yeah.
So what other progressions are out there that you can think of? Like language arts, what's the progression in language arts?
Language arts, they really teach the same standards. They just can go a little bit deeper. So 9th, 10th, 11th, and 12th are all progressing.
So 9th grade LA, 10th grade LA.
Yeah, and then you'd go to, they don't really have LA 11. We'd have different
Literatures
choices
and stuff like that.
They have to meet the same Washington State learning standards for English language arts.
Do we have kids actually using that? Do we have, like, how many kids currently get a D in Algebra 2 and get credit for Algebra 1 and 2?
I don't have those statistics, but I could certainly look them up. We have a form that you have to fill out, so it'd be easy to look up.
I'd be interested in seeing
How many are actually?
Yeah.
So I mentioned I had another question,
Yes, sir.
but everybody else started to get into it already. But my question was the algebra example specifically, and what is the next class naturally? Because naturally,
Algebra, geometry, Algebra 2.
Yeah, usually they go algebra, geometry, algebra two, but we've been talking now algebra, and then algebra two gets some credit for algebra.
Yeah.
Is that, so that would be the case, right? So
Correct.
So they would take algebra, say they failed, they'd move on to geometry,
They would.
they'd pass. They go on to algebra two and pass. I mean, that's what
Well,
I'm thinking. Or-
if you failed algebra one, you'd probably retake algebra one.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
But
this
the
is
semester
unlikely.
thing,
This
it's
is
really more of a semester thing, like I said initially, right? It's really more of you fail algebra one first semester, take algebra two second semester, get credit for algebra one. That's usually most of these that are filled out are more like my example than the example that you came up with.
right. Okay. So the algebra one, algebra two examples, not really
Probably
realistic.
not likely to happen.
Yeah.
I can't say it never has. I just
But it would be possible for somebody to fail algebra one first semester, pass it second semester, and then get the credit for the first semester, even though they failed it.
correct.
I could have done that. in high school.
Yeah.
I failed classes just by not turning way too biographical maybe, but I didn't
Sure.
turn stuff in sometimes.
Sure.
I think if that's the case, if that's what we're talking about, I definitely be in favor of raising that standard beyond a D. You know, if you failed the first semester, you need to put in the work, you know,
Yeah.
and show improvement that second semester. A D is not enough.
No.
And I think particularly it's a case in math that if you don't understand the comprehensive understanding of a lower level, you're not going to be able to move up without
That's true.
that comprehensive understanding at
It
that.
depends what your grade
other
is based
level.
on.
Yeah.
Because if you pass the tests, and I could name that teacher, if you pass the test, but didn't do the homework, you still didn't pass.
Mhm.
Which is fair, but it wasn't fair when I was 14 or 15 and I was defiant.
Yeah, I think it would be
with
interesting
that.
to know how many examples exist where this happens, that somebody gets a D and then gets a mastery-based credit.
Okay.
For us to discuss maybe for a second reading, but
Okay.
I mean, I think if
I'm
the
interested
board
too.
is supportive, if a standard was lowered during COVID, I'm interested in raising it back up to where it should be.
I agree.
Yeah.
Tori and I talked about this. We thought that having Richland have a higher standard is not a bad thing.
Yeah.
And if we get into that too, I'd also kind of like to know if the practice of like retaking algebra is really what we're following as well, or are there students that fail algebra and move on to geometry?
No, if you fail algebra, you're gonna have to retake algebra. If you fail the whole year, you need to retake it. Absolutely.
How
If
does
you
Let's look at
pass
the
the first
numbers.
semester, fail the second semester, you could move on to geometry. But typically those kids would take it during summer.
Yeah, I mean, I have a family member teaching algebra and geometry right now in our high schools, and so you know, I
Yes,
will be
you do.
going and asking, making sure, because I kind of have a feeling that there are some kids that do fail and move to the next level.
Well,
That'll be good
I
to
think we're
know.
also doing them a disservice. I mean, if they fail first semester, they get a D second semester and we say, woohoo, and push them into geometry. And then they fail geometry. It's because we failed them. We failed to teach them and get it through in that first algebra class. They should be
Yeah.
retaking algebra.
Well, and that could explain why some of our smarter balance scores as you progress aren't as high because they're not understanding the concepts.
And in fairness to teachers, it was not my teacher's fault. It was my fault. Students do have faults in some of this.
Um,
Not them.
Tori, I have a clarifying question when we talk when Dan asked the question about what tests you can take.
Yeah.
In order to do that. So you said that the SBA test, the Smarter Balance Assessment Test. So if a student chooses to take that portion of the test before they've taken that class and pass it, then they don't have to take that class?
No, they would just make up a credit of language arts that maybe they didn't pass. They can use that as one of their credits. Those kids are only the ones that didn't earn one of those credits, because you're going to need to take 4 years of language arts because you need 4 language arts credits.
But if they take the Smarter Balance, from my understanding, what you said, that's how they can show mastery is by taking the Smarter Balance. So if they
without retaking the class if they failed it.
Oh, well, that's what I'm saying. So let's say you failed, I can't remember when they take the Smarter Balance test. Let's say you failed freshman English.
Yep.
And then you go and you take the SBA, what is it, your junior year or sophomore year?
Yes.
And you pass that portion of it. Does that mean you then get credit for that class?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, which is good. Is that a new thing?
No,
Okay, so all the kids that we have maybe that are juniors and seniors and didn't have the credits that they need because they failed their freshman English class, they probably didn't pass the SBA then either.
I don't have the statistics on that.
Well, because if they did pass the SBA, then they would have the credit they needed.
If they pass the SBA, they can earn a language arts credit for whatever grade they didn't pass it in prior.
Right, but do they have to specify that's how they want to do it?
You have to specify that's how they want to do it. No, what'll probably happen is the counselor will say, hey, you passed your SBA. Now you have a language arts credit that you needed before.
Okay, and I guess that's the point that I want to make sure of, is that if we do have those kids that happen, because I know that that's a fair class that some kids fail, and also on the early math part, that our counselors really are paying attention that if they failed that class, that they're really not credit deficient.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Certainly.
Okay, yeah, just to make sure that if in fact that is a reliable source that we can do, and it is the SBA test that does that with, we need to make sure that we're evaluating for those kids that may be short on those classes, just to make sure that they
absolutely
aren't where they.
That's what they do.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Yep.
No other questions.
Yeah, and along with that report about D's, I think we had talked about with the waivers as well for 2418, which is in consent, getting the report from last year of the waivers that were granted.
I have that number.
Okay.
I didn't put it in any. It's over there on a sticky note. I don't know if you wanted that. Want me to put
Could
that in
you
the
just
report?
send it to us?
Got it.
Yeah.
Yep.
Thanks. Yeah.
I thought that might come up with a consent,
Yep.
so I have it written down, but I'll put it in the same thing.
Okay.
Okay.
Great. Any other discussion? Can I get a motion for first reading for 2413?
I'll move that.
Second.
Okay, any other discussion? And we'll vote?
Yes.
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 Great. Thanks, Tori. Okay. It is 9:13. I'm going to excuse our students because they have to go to school tomorrow. Counting down the days, I know. And we are at the board discussion portion of our business agenda. If there's any additional discussion, I know it's getting late. Any other additional discussion board members would want to bring up for future agenda items?
I'd say that with our discussion that we had around the asynchronous learning and just the academic goals and stuff, and just being just my start on the board here, I'd like to see as we develop those going into next year. I don't know how much, is there a workshop, just that there's a little bit more kind of just open visibility as those things are built, just and what time of year is that? Is like August or whatever, right?
Yeah, we did a workshop in August, I think. Yeah.
Workshop.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I'd really like to see. I don't know. Maybe publicize that. Just let people know that we're doing this, and they can come and watch, and as the goals are built for the following year, and maybe that cuts down on the surprises. That we
Publicized it.
Yeah.
We had a large zero crowd.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was publicized and done here and televised.
But I do agree with Dan. I think we need to make sure that we do a lot of that to gather more community input, and at least give them that option. But yeah, you do. But they usually, we usually don't get a lot of people attending those, but we do open them.
The implementation plans for goals should be should reach broad stakeholder, identify and reach broad stakeholder groups. So there aren't surprises as well.
Yeah, agreed. Any other discussion from you, Jill?
No, I think we covered a lot tonight.
I have one that I hope takes 30 seconds because I don't want to discuss it here. On our parent advisory, There were some really good questions that you brought up this evening, and I heard something about creating a committee. I'm interested at some point for a future agenda item on what expectations are for the parent advisory committee or us, who answers those questions, for example, and the ability to create other committees and things like that. Just what are the guidelines as a future agenda item?
Okay. Nancy, write that down for us. Okay.
Thank you. Thanks, Nancy.
Yep. Travis, you have something? Wanted to.
Yeah, I have an answer for Rick on the policy. It is in statute. Our
Process.
CW does tell us 75,000 and it does make it a formal bid process and it's very clear.
Okay, thank you.
And
sir.
the bid process is
And the
exactly what's written there.
Yes.
Okay.
You know, I tried changing that. Newspaper 10 years ago had really powerful lobbyists.
So one more item, if I could, for future agenda item, and I don't really care when we put this in there as long as it's before next year. But what I'd said about the feedback on the tech levy, there's a lot of people out there that hear tech levy and all they hear are Chromebooks, and there's a almost universal dislike of the Chromebook thing. And so I just like it as some future agenda item to be maybe discussion on how we're using those, just review on it as we've gone into like our cell phone policy and everything, just see that we're consistent with what we're trying to do with technology and devices in the kids' hands at each one of the levels, elementary, middle school, and high school.
It's a good one because those were really implemented without a lot of thought on the part of the board. And there may have been thought in the district. There wasn't a lot of discussion at the board level on that.
On the cell phone.
Cell phones, Chromebooks, computers. Yeah.
I mean, I think
It just kinda happened.
Chromebooks were implemented during COVID at the
predominantly.
lower levels as a necessity, and
They've
I
stayed.
think just
We were
stayed
1-to-1 before that, though, at the middle.
at middle and high school, but not at the elementary
right.
level.
Just a review would be nice,
Yeah.
and see if we want to change it going forward.
Yeah, I think it's a great discussion topic to think about goals that we might want for next year, to work on further too. I think it's a great idea. Any other discussion topics? Okay, we will move on to consent agenda. Is there anything anyone would like to pull from consent? Jill?
Nothing. I'm good.
Okay, can I get a motion to approve consent?
So moved.
I'll second.
Moved and seconded it. That was great.
All right, and we'll vote. Yes?
Yes.
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 Great, okay. So future agenda items, we will be back January 13th. Hope everyone has a wonderful holiday break. Let me see if this one matches mine. The parent guardian advisory report can be moved to the second meeting because we won't have had a meeting yet by January 13th. So I think we should move that one to the 27th. And are there other agenda items that we would like to add to the 13th? Remembering that the first meeting of the month, we focus on operations, HR topics, and the second meeting of the month is where we handle our academic updates. With that in mind, I think we did move the high school principal update on social emotional learning, attendance, cell phones, and disciplines to the second meeting in January because that's our academic meeting. So that was the only other change that's been made. But I did want to make sure that Mr. Christensen and Dr. Jones know we wanted the high school principals to be a part of that discussion, even though your names are on the hook right now. Okay. Thanks. Anything else? Go to the order.